We are here today because we are not going to let a bunch of extreme Supreme Court justices or extreme right-wing politicians take away the rights of 100 million American women.
With the U.S. Supreme Court set to overturn Roe v. Wade, a landmark ruling that legalized abortion across the United States 50 years ago, activists and lawmakers on both sides get ready for what comes next. Hello and welcome to Inside America with me, Ghida Fakhry. There's been outrage from women's rights advocates across the United States following the leak of a draft opinion by the U.S. Supreme Court that would overturn Roe v. Wade, the 1973 court decision that protects women's rights to an abortion in all 50 states. The federal law has been under attack since its passage 5 decades ago, with dozens of states finding ways to impose restrictions on abortion. The Supreme Court is expected to rule on the issue by the end of its current session in late June, early July. 26 U.S. states would be certain or likely to ban abortion as a result. Women could immediately lose their legal right to an abortion in states that have already passed so-called trigger laws, expected to take effect as soon as Roe v. Wade is overturned. Some states still have anti-abortion laws that predate the 1973 ruling and that were never taken off the books. The leaked 98-page draft decision, labeled Opinion of the Court, written by conservative Justice Samuel Alito, appears to have the support of at least 5 of the 9 justices, including Trump's 3 Republican-appointed nominees who've been accused by Democrats of misleading Congress during their confirmation hearings.
Do you agree with Justice Scalia's view that Roe was wrongly decided?
Senator, I completely understand why you are asking the question, but again, I can't pre-commit or say, yes, I'm going in with some agenda, because I'm not. I don't have any agenda. I have no agenda.
Please, once again, tell us why you believe Roe is settled law. And if you could, do you believe it is correctly settled?
Your point, your broader point, Roe v. Wade is an important precedent of the Supreme Court. It's been reaffirmed many times.
In the 2016 presidential campaign, Hillary Clinton, who ran against Donald Trump, warned American voters not to allow the Supreme Court to shift too far to the right. Trump, who went on to win the election, appointed 3 conservative justices in his 4 years in office.
In a single term, the Supreme Court could demolish pillars of the progressive movement. And as someone who's worked on every single one of these issues for decades, I see this as a make or break moment. If you care about the fairness of elections, the future of unions, racial disparities in universities, the rights of women, or the future of our planet, you should care about who wins the presidency and appoints the next Supreme Court justices.
With the Supreme Court's 6-3 conservative majority, justices have tended to vote along ideological party lines on most of the politically divisive issues. The court has been reconsidering abortion rights, which were established under Roe v. Wade in a case involving a Mississippi law that would ban all abortions after 15 weeks of pregnancy. Gloria Allred is one of the most prominent women's rights attorneys in America. She defended Norma McCorvey, also known as Jane Roe, for many years following the 1973 Roe v. Wade Supreme Court case. She joins me now. Gloria Allred, you've defended so many high-profile women's rights cases over the years. When you took up the case of Jane Roe, whose real name is Norma McCorvey, it was after the Roe v. Wade Supreme Court decision came out. She was a Texas waitress who sued Henry Wade, a district attorney in her state, for the right to have an abortion. Though the case started in a Texas courtroom, it went all the way up to the Supreme Court. But she was not your typical anti-abortion advocate. In fact, she later worked against abortion rights, explaining shortly before she died a few years ago that she did so, that she switched sides because she needed the money. When you look back, though, at the original Roe v. Wade case and where we are now, 50 years later, How significant is this moment for women's rights?
This is a political earthquake, an economic earthquake, a legal earthquake, a social earthquake for women and girls in the United States and around the world, because it means that the United States, which has been viewed as a leader in women's rights, is suddenly denying women and girls the right to choose how to control their own bodies, their own reproductive lives. And this decision is dangerous, it's horrific, and it's life-changing.
Why is it happening now, though, 50 years on?
Because now we have a United States Supreme Court, which has 9 justices, but at least 3 of them are justices that were nominated by former President Trump and who are extreme anti-choice justices. And they, along with 2 other Republican appointees, constitute the majority of the United States Supreme Court. And even though they said in their confirmation proceedings that they respect precedent, and Roe v. Wade is a precedent, and even a super precedent, meaning it was affirmed in other cases after Roe v. Wade, still today it appears that they're not going to respect precedent, and they are getting ready to strike down Roe v. Wade. The opinion that was released was a draft opinion. It is not a final opinion. That final opinion is likely to be published somewhere between now and the end of June, or even the first week in July.
But what changes,
So
if
it could
any, in the
change.
language?
It could
What-
change.
It could change, but not the substance of it, because, I mean,
Correct.
the draft opinion was quite clear. It said, quote, "We hold that Roe must be overruled. The Constitution makes no reference to abortion, and no such right is implicitly protected by any constitutional provision, including the Due Process Clause in the 14th Amendment." How do you argue against that? How sound is this legal argument?
Well, all of these questions were addressed in the 1973 court decision. And I don't agree with their opinions, but let's look at the real life impact on women and girls. Here's the impact. I had an abortion before 1973, before Roe v. Wade, when at that time, many states in the United States, including California, could make it a crime, not for a woman to have an abortion, but for a licensed healthcare provider like a doctor or nurse to perform it. As a result, there were millions of back alley abortions where women like me, young women, I was in my 20s, had to go and pay someone to give an abortion who didn't really know how to do that, and who would leave the woman or girl to die. That's what happened to me. I was raped at gunpoint in Mexico. I came back to California. At some point, I found that I was pregnant. I had to get a back alley abortion. I was left in a bathtub, hemorrhaging, in a pool of blood myself. Ultimately, an ambulance was called. I was taken to the hospital. There, a nurse said to me, when I had 106-degree fever from the infection caused by the illegal abortion, "I hope you've learned a lesson." And she was right. I did learn a lesson, but it wasn't the one she wanted me to learn. She was anti-choice. It was that abortion must be safe, legal, affordable, and available. Women have a right to control their own bodies. We are going to fight back. And there are many states like California now in 2022 who are going to become a haven for women who can't get an abortion legally in their own state to come to California or New York or other haven states where abortion will be legal.
But what happens to women who cannot travel to another state? What happens to the women who don't have the means to travel to these haven states?
Yes, many women are going to be impacted on this who don't have the means to travel, especially poor women, young women, women of color, rural women. These are the ones that are going to face the biggest impact. So California and some other states are raising money and seeking to provide free abortions and even some expenses for travel to women who have to travel from other states to get an abortion.
And now what we're seeing is that in many states, medication abortion in the form of a pill that you can order by mail could become illegal. With technology becoming so invasive in our lives and apps and social media platforms tracking us and sharing our information, selling it off, with online searches on a smartphone being used to target women, which is what happened a few years ago in 2017, when an online search for the abortion medication pill was used to charge a woman with second-degree murder. Where does it leave you and attorneys like you who take on the case of women who seek a legal abortion?
Medication abortions, that means taking a pill in your own home to self-induce an abortion, have become half of all abortions in the United States. And generally, what women have done is they get a consultation online, telemedicine, with a doctor who will then consult with them and prescribe the pill. What some states are doing is to say, no, they're going to have to see that doctor in person, which many women cannot do. So they're denying them the right to the medication abortion. There is no end to the cruelty and the danger that is being imposed by some states, all to get political advantage for their next election at the expense of women and girls.
Could it eventually all lead to a federal ban on abortion?
Actually, the Senate Minority Leader, Mitch McConnell, has suggested that Republicans do want to pass a federal law banning abortion in all states. That would include the half of the states where it's legal or will continue to be legal. President Biden says he wants to codify Roe v. Wade, which in plain English means to pass a federal law to make it legal in every state to have abortions. Neither is likely to pass the United States Senate now. There's a vote tomorrow. It's not likely to pass what President Biden wants. So we have to fight this fight in every state in the United States to preserve and protect and demonstrate that we are going to keep Roe v. Wade. On Saturday, May 14th, we are going to have protests and demonstrations all over this nation. I am going to be a featured speaker in Los Angeles at City Hall.
But will it ultimately change anything, though? Will it change the fundamentals, or is this all part of a broader culture wars? And where does it leave other basic rights that the Supreme Court itself has upheld? Same-sex marriage, other basic rights, where will it leave those?
We are very concerned about the slippery slope that we are facing. Some Republicans have said they want to ban contraception. That's how radical they are getting and wanting to be. And if Roe v. Wade is overturned in the final opinion, it is very possible that next they will be outlawing abortion, also marriage equality, which is same-sex marriage, also interracial marriage, which was the subject of a United States Supreme Court decision some years ago, Loving versus Virginia. So yes, There is no end to opening the door and invading our right to privacy and depriving and denying minorities and women of their precious constitutional rights.
And finally, Ms. Allred, does the leaking of this draft opinion itself raise questions about the way the Supreme Court today operates? Because there have been minor leaks in the past, but never a full opinion, 98 pages released to the public. And who stands to gain from this leak? The Conservatives or the Liberals?
There's an argument for both sides that it could help either side, it could hurt either side. But I'm not as concerned about that. I know the Chief Justice is and is wanting and is conducting an investigation. I'm more concerned about the invasion of our lives and our rights. And that is going to be my continued focus, to speak up for the voiceless and the powerless and those people across the nation who may have to suffer as I did, dying or being maimed from illegal abortions, as so many women and girls did before Roe v. Wade. We want this government out of our bodies, out of our lives, in terms of trying to control us, because that's what this is about. Let's get right into the heart of it. It's about the Republicans' desire to control women and girls. We will not be controlled by them. We are not going to let some stranger in elected office decide for us whether or not we are going to continue to be pregnant or not. We are not going to allow mandatory motherhood. And every woman and girl listening throughout this world should stand up for herself and not allow her country or any elected official to decide that they don't trust her to make the right decision. Women and girls must be trusted, not some stranger who calls himself an elected official who's never met her.
Gloria Allred, great to have you on the program. Thank you for your insights and for making the time.
Thank you.
As the fallout from the Supreme Court's leaked decision to roll back abortion rights across the US continues, Democrats are hoping that it will galvanize their voters ahead of the crucial November midterm elections. Polls show that nearly 2/3 of all US adults, 61%, according to a recent poll, believe abortion should be legal in all or most cases. 37% believe it should be illegal in all or most cases. Polling also consistently shows that Americans support keeping Roe v. Wade in place by a 2-to-1 margin. Their answers, though, vary depending on when to restrict abortion. Now, the prospect of overturning the Supreme Court's abortion law is the culmination of a decades-old campaign by anti-abortion activists and Republican lawmakers at the state and national level. One of those activists is Gracie Cogman, a longtime anti-abortion advocate in Wisconsin, one of 9 states that had abortion bans in place prior to Roe v. Wade. She joins me now. Gracie Cogman, in Wisconsin, it is still legal to have an abortion, but that could change quite soon. In fact, an 1849 state law would ban most abortions if and when Roe v. Wade is overturned. The only exception would be, quote, if a doctor decides it is necessary or is advised by 2 other physicians as necessary to save the life of the mother. Doesn't this, though, go to the heart of the accusations that we heard and we keep hearing against Republicans who are trying to criminalize abortion, that the real goal is to control women and decide on their behalf what is in their best interest?
Well, we believe that this is a fundamental battle over human rights. And when we talk about the battle for not only unborn children, but also for these mothers, and we
Hold
firmly
on, but how
believe-
can you say it's a fundamental battle against human rights if you're taking away one of the most basic civil rights for American women and women who live in the US?
You know, we are focusing on the rights of the most vulnerable in our society, and those are unborn children. They don't have a voice. We have to be the voice for them. And, you know, digging into the reality of abortion, we're talking about 70% of children diagnosed with Down syndrome are aborted. They never have the chance at life. So those are the individuals that we are advocating for, truly the most vulnerable in our society.
Shouldn't it be up to women to determine what is best for them? Because just look at the facts. Studies have shown that when abortions are banned, more people end up dying, not less. In fact, there was a study made by the University of Colorado that found that a nationwide abortion ban could lead to a 21% increase in pregnancy-related deaths among white women and 33% among Black women. So banning abortion will hurt women, not the opposite.
The reality is every single abortion takes the life of that child. So we are talking about millions and millions of children who have lost their lives since that Roe determination. And that's where the loss of life is happening. And secondly,
but again, you're suggesting that the termination of the pregnancies are all happening after the fetus becomes viable, which isn't what we're talking about.
Well, in the pro-life movement, we understand and respect the fact that life begins at conception. So we are not, using the 20-week viability standard. We are using the standard of moment of conception. That is a human life that is deserving of respect and protection. And we believe that that 20-week standard is incredibly flawed. And the amazing thing is we have scientific and medical advancements, especially since 1973, that have changed the viability standard, that have allowed babies to be born at earlier stages and receive life-saving medical care. And, so that standard is no longer valid. And we believe it has never been valid from the moral perspective of protecting the lives of these children.
You know as well as I do that these laws won't stop abortions. They'll just change the way people access abortion.
That is why we focus quite a bit on our second goal, and that is to make abortion unthinkable. And again, that's where we return to the critical work of our pregnancy resource centers that are meeting women in their times of need. We have education campaigns. Again, as I said, we are working on proposing bipartisan legislation here in Wisconsin, and I certainly hope other states will follow. I can tell you that we've had quite a bit of support here with our elected legislature to pass that kind of legislation. So again, we are focused on the nearly 70% of women that say they obtained an abortion because of external pressure, because of financial concerns. Those women deserve care. They deserve aid. They are seeking an abortion because they feel it is their only resort.
I'm not sure where you get these numbers, though. I'm not sure where you get these numbers. That 70% of women who seek an abortion say they do so under pressure.
I'm happy to provide those to you after the show, but a lot of our research comes from the Charlotte Lozier Institute and the SBA list.
But let me ask you finally again, if women's health and well-being is ultimately the goal, not just a talking point, why not ensure access to safe, affordable abortion and contraception so women can choose if and when to have a child?
Because abortion is taking the life of innocent lives, innocent children. Abortion is not healthcare. Abortion is murder. So these women deserve better. They deserve better than the lies of abortion providers who are telling them that abortion is safe and easy without complication. It is traumatizing. It is taking the life of their child, and it has lasting negative impacts on the lives of many of these women.
Gracie Skogman, Legislative Director of Wisconsin Right to Life. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The Supreme Court decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, its own well-established precedent, which granted women across the United States the legal right to have an abortion half a century ago, reverses a basic civil right in America, one that has withstood the test of time despite a sustained campaign by its opponents to strike it down. The timing of the court's decision raises questions about its motivation and credibility. It also exposes once again the foundational failures and inherent flaws in the US political system, where a minority of the country's voters can elect presidents and lawmakers whose decisions can reshape the High Court for years, if not generations. 5 of the 9 justices on the court today were appointed by 2 presidents, Bush and Trump, who both lost the popular vote. Many argue that the Supreme Court was meant to act as an arbiter, not to settle political questions, and that its outsized power derives from a system that doesn't prioritize compromise in the US Congress. For years, Republicans railed against the Supreme Court and its, quote, unelected judges, whose rulings, they said, disenfranchised voters on critical issues. Now Democrats are doing the same. Both sides have called the Supreme Court an activist court when it suited them. And so, in short, what is at stake today goes beyond women's reproductive rights, with renewed calls to reform or fix the Supreme Court itself. And with some of the newest conservative justices likely to remain on the bench 30 years from now, liberals worry about the future and whether a highly partisan court can truly reflect the changing face of America. That's all from me, Ghida Fakhry, and the team here in Washington. Thanks for watching.